What's up, Red Bull Wololo lovers? $150,000 tournament happening in October in Spain, and we only have 8 players for Age of Empires 2. 2 invited players, the Viper and Tado, 4 players that will qualify via ladder process, and 2 players for a last chance qualifier. And here in this podcast, we will quickly talk about those 4 remaining spots. And with me is Mr. JorDan, also part of the lineup here for the offline event. Really happy to have him here. Jordy, 28th of July is the cutoff date for only 4 people. Who do you have as your favorites?
Yeah, it's just very tough. The available spots are very, very slim, only 4. So it's going to be very tough to pick. I think I have 2 players which are kind of obvious, and then 2 which might be debatable, but I will go for them anyway. So the 2 obvious ones for me personally are Hera and Mr. Yo. Okay. I think these 2 are very clear, as they have been performing so well in the last year, so they're always constant. And then one player who has been shining very, very much the recent months, which was Sebastian. So I will go for him as well. Yeah, Nili, you're surprised by that pick, I know, but I just had some experience with playing as Sebastian as well in the tournament setups, and if I'm not mistaken, he has done some very, very good job against me. And I feel like he has improved even more the last month. So I will go for him. And then I will also go for Vilese. I expect him to grind very hard again to go full-time. And if he is full-time, then he will definitely make it.
Those are 2 underdog picks for sure here, Jordy. Oh yeah. Man, you're smiling. So Hera, probably the biggest favorite for most of the people. Then Absolutely. Mr. Yo, you say, also probably considered to be a top 4, top 5 player, so it makes sense that you add him there. And then Sebastian and Vilese. Wow, this is pretty wild. Okay, and then who do you have as potential contenders?
So, obviously you want to think about Lyri and Dowd as well, as they, in terms of skills, should be in the top 4, top 6 region. However, I doubt that Lyri and Dowd are going to be so active on the ladder and that they're able to keep their motivation. So I kind of doubt it. So I will keep them as favorites, yes, but not in the top 4 in terms of ladder. And then obviously people like MBL, also Hard, ACCM, all of these can make it, obviously.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I think it would hurt Dowd too much to not be there, right? It's very likely that Terra, his teammate, will be there. Tado and Viper are already there. So like 3 out of 4 people from the GL squad are going to be there 100%. I think it will hurt him way too much to not be there. I think he will be motivated for the ladder.
Yeah, especially I think it was NAC 4, right? Which he was missing. So I'm sure he still has the pain in him. So could be that he's motivated, yes.
And Lyri, you mentioned him as well.
Yeah. And
questioning how motivated he is. I think it is part of the agreement for Wii Sports, the new esports team that picked up Hard, that picked up Lyri, that they are expecting big things from him.
Yeah.
They even posted on the Red Bull Discord, Lyri will have motivation to grind the ladder. So I'm actually expecting Lyri to go try hard, especially thinking about how well he connected he still is with Hera. Hard will have a lot of motivation to grind. So I think they will put their minds together, and I think it's very likely that Hard and Lyri are going to go try hard here.
Yeah, the thing I see about Lyri is, for me, Lyri is the kind of person who is very efficient with the way he's living his Age of Empires life. And if you think about grinding the ladder, that takes a lot of effort, and the risk is very high, right? Because there are so many people grinding, And therefore, I could even imagine him saying, okay, I will not even go through the ladder process. I will just focus fully on the qualifier. And I mean, him with his skills, he should be the #1 favorite, especially if 4 other people are then qualified through ladder. That he just says, okay, I will fully focus on the qualifier and I take the risk of only 2 spots. I could see that as an option as well for him.
But he would need to train for the qualifier as well, right? He can't just do it completely. How many new maps do we have? 13, 15 or something? And like that, just being thrown in there when all the others already grinded the ladder for weeks, if not months. I think this will be tough. I think this might be one of the toughest last chance qualifiers because so many out of the top 10, top 15, maybe top 20 are already tryharding and playing mass games every single day. I think it would be crazy risk for Leary to take if he skips the ladder grind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now we kind of have to discuss a bit the approaches. What can we expect? Obviously, highest rating achieved is the determining factor. So not what rating do you have at the cutoff date, 28th of July. No. If you have like a high rating and you drop again, if you are in the top 4, you still go through. How early do you think people will start to map pick, civ pick, try hard, like try to pick their opponents, try to see who's online, try to see who's streaming, try to pick your opponents?
I think especially within the last 2 weeks before the cutoff date, I think people are really going to be very cautious with how they are going to play, which maps they are picking, which civs they are picking. I think people will go for the OP civ, so to say, not necessarily because they want to, but other people are going to do that, which are in their competition, and then you're kind of forced to do so as well, right? So I think, yeah, around 2 weeks before the cutoff day, we are going to see something like that. And right now, I feel like it's still, people are, getting used to the maps with random civs and just having fun. But the closer it gets to the cutoff day, people are going to be 100% try hard.
What do you think will be the meta when it comes to civ picking? Do you go for the best civ? Do you go for the counter against the best civ? Or maybe an approach that I think could be something for like Hera to always go mirror?
That's a good question. I think especially nowadays the civs are so balanced that you cannot really nail one specific civ for each map as the best. I think there are always like 3-4 which are, the contender for the best spot, and I think people are going to choose always within those 3-4 where they also feel like that's where they feel the most comfortable with.
Okay. And now one big topic is time zones. Obviously we have, kind of simplifying it, 3 big time zones: Americans, Europeans, Asians. Which time zone do you think might be the weakest? Which time might be where you can gain an edge, farm some elo? And do you think people will actually try to play in a different time zone than they normally would?
So I think the weakest one should be the Asian region, I suppose, because there's not so much activity on the top level. I think European and the Western one should be the hardest one, so I think the Asian one should be the weakest. And I can obviously see the argument of people playing in this time zone where the least activity is in terms of not losing the rating. But as you said, Nili, it is about the highest achieved rating, so I don't think that strategy is too strong anyway. So I'm really not too sure. I think people will try to play where it is the highest activity, just to also get the practice in as well.
Okay. Highest activity is something I could see like to 1 week before. But then I think, especially someone like Doubt, who typically doesn't have a sleeping rhythm, right? He could easily just wake up midnight and play the first 6 to 8 hours, right? Then he avoids a lot of, like all the Europeans kind of. Mm-hmm. And maybe Hera with some late games. Mm-hmm. I think maybe like Mr. Yo is kind of European time zone when it comes to playing. So I think he might only face ACCM then. And I think that could be an approach that a lot of people might be doing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just wondering, if you go for that strategy, it will be harder for you to also grind or improve the rating, right? Because if you always play against 1 or 2 people and you always have a good win streak against them, then the benefit of winning is not going to be as high again in terms of your points. So it really depends also on how your standing is. If you're very happy with your highest achieved rating and you know, okay, right now I'm top 2, then I guess you will go for something like that. And you can also think about which player is a close contender to mine and how can I snipe him on ladder in order for him not to surpass my rating, right? So that's also something which you can take into consideration. So a lot of mind games in there.
Obviously, trying to avoid some manipulation, you cannot check who's queuing up right now. We had that feature in the past, but still, people are streaming. You know when people played their last games. Like you can get some conclusions, some ideas. I think some factor. Just imagine someone like Huang, who is motivated to still play. Right, he loves competition. He played, I think, 150 games in the first 4 days or something when the Red Bull ladder came out. He's mad. And just assume he's playing 20 games each day. He wins 15 of those games against 1200s that are playing. And then the other 5 games can easily be farmed by the top players, right? And you still get 4 points, 5 points against him. So I think people that grind a lot in the midfield can actually be quite some influence as well. So I think actively trying to play against Huang could actually boost your rating the week before the final weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be very interesting, especially the last 2-3 days before the cutoff day. It's going to be a nail biter for sure.
Yeah, and I think everyone will be awake. No matter what time zone you are, the final 6 to 8 hours, everyone will be online. Everyone will try to get their last jumps. That will be really interesting. I will give you my percentages and my predictions. I already sent them to you. And obviously, my big favorite, Hera, as well. Then I have a pack of people where I feel 40%. I gave MBL 30. I think it will be tricky for him to really try hard the ladder, in the sense that he only plays one map, only one civ, and doesn't stream it, gets kind of enjoyment out of that as well. So I gave a slightly lower number there, and then I have a big block of players that I gave a combined 80% of qualification. You already gave Willisse and Sebastian way higher percentages, but anything else that you feel Nili, you're completely off there?
Honestly, no. I think your numbers are pretty accurate. I mean, the thing with MBL is, if you're talking about ladder grinding, he has proven a lot of times already that he's one of the most active people. However, I know that in terms of Empire Wars, he doesn't enjoy it as much as a random map, so I think that plays into it for sure as well. And therefore I think 30 might even be a little bit too high, but just because of that reasoning. Other than that, Hard is super active as far as I'm concerned. Then yeah, Doubt I think is a little bit too high.
Okay.
We talked about that already. Also Larry, of course, in terms of skills, that's a different topic, but yeah, Doubt and Larry I don't see as active, but yeah, we will see. And the other numbers are obviously completely reasonable.
Doubt certainly suffering from this kind of qualification format, right? He loves to have a plan, loves to have a good draft, prepare some strategies, try to look at weaknesses of his opponent, try to set up the set like he wants to. And those games will be a lot of meta coming down to execution, where he typically shouldn't shine.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's where he is really the most comfortable, right? If he knows whose opponent he has, then he can prepare perfectly. Ladder is just a different topic. And also, I feel like ladder also involves a lot of activity. You have to play a lot of games. So yeah, it's going to be tough in terms of mental preparation, but maybe he surprises us. maybe the pain of NAC4 is still in him. Yeah,
Oh.
Mistio I personally would also rate a little bit higher.
See
Other than that, Andy, I'm really curious about Andy because I feel like we saw it. Him playing against Larry, it was just fabulous, and yeah, Andy is just such a strong player. I don't know how well he is going to be able to transition that playstyle to Empire Wars because that's just a different setting. So for me, that's a complete wild card. Also, I'm not 100% familiar with the maps. How are the maps allowing tricky playstyles, which Andy shines the most, I think, from all players. So I'm curious about that.
You
and
can simply
also,
ban those maps that you are tricky, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Winchester, I have a lot of hopes for Winchester as well, because he's back to his home, and he will be able to perform extremely well as well. So, yeah, Winchester I would give a high percentage as well.
Okay. Well, really interesting. Only 4 spots. 28th of July, the cutoff date. Jordan and I gave you our thoughts, and well, it would be nice if you share some ideas, give your percentages down in the comments below, and we will say goodbye, Jordan and Nili, at the Red Bull main event early October.
See you guys.